What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to take a look at all the games I added into my collection in the month of February. Let's not waste a whole bunch of time talking. Let's get into these pickups. So kick back, relax, grab yourself a sandwich because you're going to like this one. Alright everyone, like you probably saw in the caption, I'll be adding another 50 games to my gaming collection this month in the month of February. Last month, I was able to add 50 games into my collection as well. To start off the video, let's look at some of the Genesis games I'll be adding into my collection. The first game I added, I got this early on in the month, and that is Raid & Trad. A great shoot 'em up on the Sega Genesis. I really love the box art. To me, it really stands out on the shelf. I really like the graphical style that they used for this. Now, the graphics on this game aren't going to blow you away. It's almost a hybrid of an 8-bit and a 16-bit game. But nonetheless, this is an excellent port of an arcade classic. So Raid & Trad going into the collection. Next up is a game that I got a lot with the Sega Genesis console, and that is Arcade Classics. I just wanted to add this game into the collection. It's complete in box and everything. Looks really, really nice. The games are Missile Command, Centipede, and Pong. Just something that I wanted to put into the collection, so glad to be adding that to the collection this month. Next up is a game that I'm sweating it a little bit about adding this game into the collection, but if you know me, you know I'm going for a full, complete, 100% Sega Genesis collection, and that game is Barbie Supermodel. Now, this game gave me a good laugh whenever I popped it in. You're Barbie, you're driving around in a car. It's a lot of matching mini games in this game. Honestly, I'll just say it. I feel bad for all the girls that bought this game, but there was probably a lot of girls who sunk a lot of time into this game and really enjoyed the product. Barbie Supermodel. I know there's another Barbie game on the Sega Genesis, and I'm not looking too forward to getting to that, but I got this game at a super discount price, and Barbie Supermodel, adding it to the collection. Next up is a Disney game on the Genesis, and that is The Jungle Book. I haven't played this game, but a lot of Disney games came out on the Sega Genesis console, and a lot of them are hit or miss. I don't know about this game. Maybe you know more about this game. Let me know in the comments down below. Is it worth my time to bust this thing out? Next up is an arcade classic, and that is Miss Pac-Man on the Sega Genesis. This is apparently a pretty good game. I know the immortal John Hancock recommends this game as a pretty cheap budget title, and I was able to pick mine up for very cheap. The game sold pretty well. I see it in gaming lots all the time, so Mrs. Pac-Man going into the collection. Next up is another Disney game, and that is Ariel the Little Mermaid. In this game, you can play as Triton, or you can play as Ariel. It's kind of cool because you go around saving all the sea creatures. You have a map that you can look at. You'll be opening treasures, collecting items, and moving on to the next stage. Apparently, there's some bosses in this. Believe it or not, I'm actually looking forward to playing a little bit more and more in this game. It has some replay value with you being able to pick two different characters. So, Ariel the Little Mermaid on the Sega Genesis. Next up, we have Jeopardy on the Sega Genesis. And what can I say about it? It's Jeopardy on the Sega Genesis. If you've ever wanted to play Jeopardy, here you go. Sega Genesis Jeopardy. Next up is, in my opinion, an underrated fighter on the Sega Genesis, and that is Virtua Fighter 2. That's right, they skipped Virtua Fighter 1 and ported Virtua Fighter 2 to the Sega Genesis. Now, obviously, this is a completely scaled-down version of the game, but all the characters are there, and that's what matters to me. I think it controls really well. For $20, I got it complete in the box, so Virtua Fighter 2 on the Sega Genesis. Next up is Wiz and Liz on the Sega Genesis. I haven't played this game a whole lot, but apparently it's an arcade-style game. You go around and you're collecting all of these, what they call wabbits. You'll be moving into different levels, and I didn't get a whole lot of time to play it, but Wiz and Liz on the Sega Genesis. And coming in next is James Buster Douglas Boxing on the Sega Genesis. This game is not a very good game, but I picked it up in the dollar bin at my local retro video game store. One interesting thing about it is it actually came with a Sonic 2 poster. I'll show that off real quick. But yeah, it came with a Sonic 2 poster. On the front side is the advertisement for Sonic 2, and on the back side you've got the Genesis way ahead of the game. I agree. Down below, you've got some controllers and some of the games that they have on the Genesis there. To me, it was worth it alone for just this poster. I don't really hang up a lot of posters, but this is cool to add to the collection. And I only picked it up for $1. So James Buster Douglas Boxing, picked up for $1. Next up is another sports game, and that is PGA Tour Golf 2. I didn't have this in the collection, needed it for the collection. There you go. Coming in next on the Genesis is Jungle Strike. This is the sequel to Desert Strike. The game controls take a little bit of time of getting used to in these games, but I really enjoyed this one a lot more than Desert Strike. This game boasts that it has stunning cinematics, and I'm looking forward to actually checking those out. So Jungle Strike, the sequel to Desert Strike. Alright guys, so if you watch my game collecting tips video, in that video I did pick up 3 games, and that is Quackshot for the Sega Genesis, which is an alright platformer. Super Battleship, I was talking about the box and how it was in terrible condition. Well, with these box protectors, it does a really good job of forming the box back into shape. So don't be afraid if you find a Genesis game out there that's not in the best shape. Just buy one of these box protectors and it does a really good job at putting it back into shape. Next up is TNN Outdoor Bass Tournament 96. Now this game came out really late in the Sega Genesis library. Not a lot of games came out in 95. The Genesis was kind of moving off the hardware shelf. TNN Outdoor Bass. It's fishing on the Genesis. If you ever wanted to sit down and do some fishing on the Genesis, there you go. Coming in next is a game that I really got a steal on, and that is The Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Sega Genesis. Now I paid $33 for this game. It generally goes for around $65, $70 in that range. This game is really challenging. I still haven't been able to get past the first level of the game, but I'm not going to let that hold me back from enjoying this game. This game is a really, really good game. It has excellent graphics. It has an excellent presentation. I really, really enjoy the level design in this game. I'm just hoping that I can get better and better at it. The other cool thing about this game is if you know me, you know I love my run and guns. This is a run and gun game, and it's a really cool co-op game as well. So, The Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Sega Genesis. Next up is an odd sports game on the Sega Genesis, and that is Speedball Brutal 2 Deluxe. This game is essentially the game of handball. You'll be moving around, passing to your team. There's an odd scoring system in this game, but from what I played, I really enjoyed it. And like I said, this is an odd sports title on the Genesis. I didn't know anything about it. In fact, I was looking online at this game, and it was selling for around $24. I picked this up at my local retro video game store for $9, so in my opinion, I got a pretty good deal on it. Speedball Brutal 2 Deluxe, glad to be adding that to the collection. And next up is a heavy-hitting title on the Sega Genesis, and that is Ranger X on the Sega Genesis. This game is a whole lot of fun. The developers threw everything into the hat in this game. I really enjoy the combat in this game. Enemies will be flying in off the screen. You'll be having to take them out. You also have the Super Cyber Cycle in this game, and that is basically your little mech skateboard. You can link up with the Super Cyber Cycle, and you can move around the level and stage design. This game also has big boss characters. This game is one of those games that flew under the radar for me on the Sega Genesis. It's definitely a title that I'm super glad to be adding to the collection this month. It's one that I keep coming back to from the time that I put the cartridge into the game slot until I see that game over screen. So, if you're a Sega Genesis collector, in my opinion, you have to have this game in your collection. Go out, find this cart loose, find it complete, however you want to do it. Play this game. This game is a lot of fun. The next game is a budget title on the Sega Genesis, and that is Asterix, The Great Rescue. A lot of us Americans don't know a whole lot about the Asterix series. It's more popular over in European countries, but from what I've heard, it's actually a pretty decent platform on the Sega Genesis. It's a game that I haven't played a lot of, but it's one of those backlog games that I want to play more and more of. So Asterix on the Sega Genesis. Next up are 2 games that I got a lot, and the first one is Road Rash. Didn't have the first one, I have the second one, but the Road Rash series, you'll be driving on your bike, you can upgrade your bike, you'll be knocking other racers off of their bike as you try to race to the finish and end up in first place. So Road Rash on the Sega Genesis. And last but not least, this is the last Genesis title I got this month, and that is Championship Pro-Am for the Sega Genesis. This game is essentially the spiritual sequel to RC Pro-Am on the NES. It's got some 16-bit style graphics. It's a lot of fun, and it actually has a really excellent soundtrack. Keep an eye out for this game because it's out there for pretty cheap. So Championship Pro-Am on the Sega Genesis. Alright guys, and moving right along, next up are some original Xbox titles. The first one is Metal Slug 3. This game came out on all kinds of platforms. You can get it on eShops everywhere. The Metal Slug series is always a series that I really enjoyed. And yeah, you can find it out there cheaper on other platforms, but I wanted it on my original Xbox, so Metal Slug 3 on the Xbox. Next up is Oddworld Munch's Odyssey on the original Xbox. This is an Xbox exclusive. This is back whenever the Oddworld games were only coming out on the original Xbox. Haven't spent a whole lot of time with it, but I'm looking forward to seeing what it has to offer. Next up is a game that was remastered. I know it came out on the PS3. I'm not sure if it came out on the Xbox 360, but I got this on the original Xbox, and that is The Chronicles of Riddick: Escape from Butcher Bay. Definitely a title that I was looking forward to adding to my collection this month. And next up is a console exclusive, and that is Amp Snowboarding for the original Xbox. I've always enjoyed the Amp series, and I didn't have the first game in the collection. What's really cool to me about these games is that there's so many different paths and different ways that you can go down the mountain. And what else can I say about it? I mean, it's a really good snowboarding game for the original Xbox. I'm on the lookout for Amp 3 Snowboarding because that's a game that I sunk a lot of time into whenever I was playing my original Xbox 360. So Amp Freestyle Snowboarding for the Xbox. Alright guys, and next up I've got some Xbox 360 titles to go through. Starting off our Xbox 360 titles with WWE 12. I was a fan of wrestling for a long time. Now, by this point, I was kind of out of the wrestling phase, but nonetheless, it's kind of cool to own a little bit more modern version of a wrestling game on the Xbox 360. So WWE 12. Next up is a game that I got shipped to me from Canada, and that is Too Human. I'm kind of kicking myself from importing it from Canada because I went down to my local retro video game store and I saw it there for $5. I think I paid like $9 or $10 for it. The one cool thing about it is up top, I think it says in French, Xbox 360 console exclusive. So I guess it's kind of cool to have a game that was released in Canada here in the States. I don't know a whole lot about this game. When you get 50 games in a month, you don't have a lot of time to play all the games, and this is a game that I haven't played yet, but a title that I'll be looking forward to coming back to. Next up is a sports game, and that is 2010 FIFA World Cup South Africa. I didn't have a modern FIFA soccer game, but yeah guys, basically I just wanted a more modern FIFA game. So adding 2010 FIFA World Cup to the collection is always fine with me. Next up is a title that I sunk a lot of time into whenever I was playing my Xbox 360 nonstop, and that is Call of Duty 2. Basically, I buy the Call of Duty games to play through the campaign. I'm not really particularly interested in the multiplayer. Honestly, to me, the Call of Duty games have become like a copy and paste game. They come out with so many of them a year, but I know there's a lot of Call of Duty fans out there. I'm a fan myself, but like I said, I really like to play the single player and not really the online anymore. So Call of Duty 2 going into the collection. And next we have a game that is truly a hidden gem on the Xbox 360. If you're going to go out and look for any of these Xbox 360 games, I highly recommend this one. And that game is War Tech for the Xbox 360. Now, this game is like no other game that I've ever played. Basically, you choose your mech and you're going to fight off against an opponent. One of the coolest features of this game is not only is it a fighting game, it's also a shoot 'em up game. Basically, when you're at a distance, you can use your projectile weapons, and when you're up close and personal, you can really get in there and give someone a whooping. But the awesome thing about this is once your meter fills up, you can go into what's called boss mode in this game. You basically turn into a massive end boss that you would see in a shoot 'em up game, and you can fill the screen with a whole bunch of bullets. It's a lot of fun. It's a game, in my opinion, that is a hidden gem on the Xbox 360. If you got your Xbox 360, I'd dust that thing off and go buy this game while it's cheap because I know it didn't sell really well over here in the United States. If I were you, I would definitely pick this game up for the Xbox 360. That is War Tech. Next up is a game that really caught my eye because it's developed by From Software, and that is Chrome Hounds. So Chrome Hounds on the Xbox 360. But next up is an Xbox 360 title that really caught my eye whenever I saw it in the gaming store, and that is X-Blades on the Xbox 360. I didn't know anything about this game, and it was really cool to pick it up. I always love it whenever I pick up a game that's just based off the cover. But X-Blades is an awesome Xbox 360 game. Basically, you play as a Yumi. She's a treasure seeker. She goes around and she finds artifacts that she can sell. And then one day she gets cursed, so you'll be playing through that story. The one thing that really caught my eye when I was playing this game was the graphical style. It's very similar to Zelda Breath of the Wild, and obviously this game predates that. So if you enjoy games with that graphical style, I highly recommend this game. The color palette is a little bit brighter than what you would get in Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I think it really, really looks good on the Xbox 360, and it's a title that you should definitely keep an eye out for. So X-Blades on the Xbox 360. And next up is my first Turbo Duo game that I'll be adding to the collection. I don't personally own a Turbo Duo. I actually have a PC Engine Duo. If you don't know, the PC Engine Duo isn't region locked for the CD-based games. Now, the cue card games are region locked, so that's something that you need to know before you go out and purchase yourself a PC Engine. But what was awesome was this month I was able to mod my PC Engine Duo so that it will be able to play American TurboGrafx 16 releases. But nonetheless, the title that I'm adding is Final Zone 2 on the Turbo Duo. What can I say about this game? It's not the best Turbo Duo game. This game is a run and gun shooter from an isometric view, but the one issue that I have with this game is that you have to be standing still in order to shoot. So I guess that really doesn't make it a run and gun game. I'd say that it's more of a stand and gun game. But this game is really enjoyable. It has some cheesy cutscenes, and also it has a cheesy theme song to it. But I've always enjoyed that cheesy stuff. It's always funny to sit through a playthrough of this stuff and get further and further in the game so that you can see more and more of that cheesy goodness. So Final Zone 2, a Turbo Duo game that I was looking forward to adding to the collection. Alright guys, next up are two PC Engine Duo games, and the first one is Valis 3. I was playing through this a little bit and I got myself to a point where I really couldn't get through. Now this game actually did come out in the United States, but it's far cheaper to own the Japanese version, so I was looking forward to adding that to the collection this month. And my next PC Engine Duo game is Falset Amor. This game is a platformer and it's got a pretty cool weapon mechanic. You have this chainsword and you can use it to swing from platform to platform. From what I played so far, it's a really enjoyable game. It's a game that's really, really rare on the PC Engine. I would say keep an eye out, but obviously with it being a Japanese game, you're probably going to have to import this game in order to get it. But it's pretty cool to be adding a Japanese PC Engine game to the collection. Next up are two PlayStation 1 titles, and the first one is Overblood. Basically, if you watch my Retro Rec Room videos, you might have seen this game in that video. From what I've played so far, it was really, really enjoyable, and a game that I'm looking forward to getting deeper and deeper into. So Overblood on the PS1. And another title, this is a title that I picked up at a thrift store, and that is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I actually found this in the CD section at the thrift stores. Like I said, people, always check the CD section, always check the DVD section. You never know what you're going to find. And I ended up paying $1.98 for this game, so adding it to the collection for $1.98, I don't mind that at all. Graphically, the game hasn't aged very well, but I always say that good graphics don't make a good game. I remember playing this game a lot growing up, and it was a game that I was eager to come back to. So Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace on the PlayStation 1. Another game that I picked up from Retro Rec Room was Power Quest on the Game Boy. I always hear people talk about there not being some good fighting games on the Game Boy. Well, this game is a good fighting game on the Game Boy, I promise you that. Basically, in this game, you play as a kid who buys an RC robot that you can enter into a fighting competition. And to me, it's a game that's really worth it on the original Game Boy. So keep an eye out for Power Quest. If you're looking for a good fighter on the Game Boy, look no further than Power Quest. Next up is a game that I got free from Retro Rec Room. It was really cool of them to do that, and that is King's Knight on the NES. Basically, this is a shooter on the NES. This is developed by Square, and I was glad that Retro Rec Room tossed this game in for free. So shout out to them, and I appreciate them tossing this in for me. King's Knight on the NES. And another title for the NES that I really, really wanted was Shinobi on the NES. This game is actually a really good port of the arcade classic. From what I could tell, the bonus stages are there, which is really cool because you play in a first-person perspective and you can throw your throwing stars. And what else can I say about it, guys? It's an awesome Shinobi game. It's definitely one that you should keep an eye out for your NES collection. So Shinobi for the NES. And this month I actually picked up some PlayStation 2 titles. I normally only go for console exclusives, but as you'll see, some of these games aren't console exclusives. The first three games I picked up from my PlayStation 2 are some wrestling games. I actually got SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, SmackDown vs. Raw, the original one, and SmackDown Just Bring It. I picked these games up because I like some good classic wrestling games. It's always cool to me to create a character and go through the storyline like that. I also picked these games up for nostalgic purposes. I played a lot of these games growing up, and it was kind of cool to come back and revisit them. Next up, we have a console exclusive for the PlayStation 2, and that is Legion, the Legend of Excalibur. I haven't played anything of this game yet. I don't know anything about it. I just picked it up because I knew it was a console exclusive. If you know anything about this game, let me know in the comments about it because I don't know anything about it. So Legion, the Legend of Excalibur on the PS2. And another PlayStation 2 title is Rise of Kasai on the PlayStation 2. Haven't played anything about it. I've heard really good things, and I also know that this is a console exclusive. I haven't had time to play this, but I just picked this up recently, and I've heard really good things about it. This is a PlayStation 2 exclusive, and a title that I was looking forward to adding to the collection. If you watch Metal Jesus Rocks, in one of his Hidden Gems on the PlayStation 2 video, there was a game called Seek and Destroy. This game is like a tank RPG. There's all kinds of tanks that you can build and equip with weapons. You drive around in a pretty cool overworld map, and you take on missions From what I've played of it so far, it's been pretty challenging. But like he said, it is a hidden gem on the PlayStation 2. I can definitely agree with him on that. But yeah, guys, this is definitely a game that you should definitely keep an eye out for, especially because it's so cheap right now. Seek and Destroy on the PlayStation 2. Next up is Armored Core 3 for the PlayStation 2. I'm pretty sure that this is a console exclusive. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a really cool mech game. When I went to capture footage of it, I was enjoying the playthrough. The levels seem to be a little bit short, and I don't know, maybe they get a little bit longer as the game goes on. I only played through the first 3 or 4 levels, but there's all kinds of customization that you can do with your mech. You can change the head, the arms, the guns, all kinds of things like that in this game, and it's definitely a pretty cool title to be adding to the PlayStation 2 collection. So this month was interesting because I got 2 Shinobi games, and the next one is PlayStation 2 Shinobi. I think this game brought Shinobi into the 3D realm. You can run off the walls, you can use some ninja magic. This is your classic Shinobi game. From what I've heard, it's really challenging. This is another game that I've really enjoyed so far, Shinobi on the PlayStation 2. And last but not least is a sports game on the PlayStation 2. I actually did get out to a yard sale, and I found this at a yard sale. I was looking through this entire DVD collection, and as I'm looking through there, my eyes fixated on this title here, and that is Hard Hitter Tennis. Now, I scoured the entire DVD shelf, and I didn't find any other games. But that just goes to show you guys, just because someone only has DVDs for sale at a yard sale doesn't mean that you shouldn't go and check just in case, because you might find a title like this. Now, this isn't the greatest title, but it is a tennis game, and what caught my eye about it is it was developed by Atlas, who brings us all kinds of amazing games and all kinds of amazing RPG games. This one's cool. You can create your own tennis player. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with a tennis game, but an interesting pickup to say the least. Alright guys, I got one more game left for us, but before I do, I actually have a gaming accessory that I got. I ordered this out of Japan, and that is the 5-player Turbo Tap for the PC Engine. I forgot to mention this whenever I was talking about the PC Engine games, but basically this allows you to put 5 controllers in to play your 5-player games. If you don't know, the PC Engine only has 1 controller, so it's definitely something that I wanted to add so that I can play some 2-player games on the PC Engine. And the last title that I wanted to talk about is an Xbox One game, and that is Borderlands Game of the Year Edition. I picked this up at a thrift store for $5, and the cool thing about this game is it comes complete with the Borderlands game, all 4 add-on packs, and also it has a fold-out of the Pandora map. I've always liked random loot drop games, and one day this is going to be the granddaddy of the loot drop games. And the other cool thing about this is a couch co-op game. You got an extra controller, plug that puppy in and give it to your friend so that you guys can enjoy Borderlands and co-op. I've always enjoyed Borderlands as a co-op experience. So Borderlands Game of the Year Edition on the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One. Alright guys, so I hope you enjoyed my gaming pickups for the month of February. Like I said, this is back-to-back months where I've added 50 games into my collection. If you want some tips and tricks on how you can add more and more games to your collection in a month, check out my game collecting tips video and playlist. But alright guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for future videos like this. But alright guys, I gotta get out of here. I gotta capture footage of some of these games. So thanks for watching the video. Enjoy your gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.